Welcome back to Studio 5. You know, children are a parent's pride and joy, but when kids struggle with things like substance abuse, the dream of raising a happy, successful family can turn into a nightmare. In day 5 of our week-long series, Step Into My Shoes, the last lesson in Sensitivity Training 101, a candid conversation about coping with out-of-control kids.
Our guest today is Margaret Strong, a mom who spent 18 years dealing with kids caught up in drugs and also alcohol. She's helped them go from troubled teens to successful young adults. We welcome Margaret. Also joining the conversation, Studio 5 contributor and therapist Julie Hanks. Ladies, just reading over these notes, I was moved and impressed with the perspective you both have to share. But first, when I think of the situation, drugs, alcohol, I think every parent's natural gut is not my kid. Were you shocked to learn your kids were involved in that type of a situation?
I was very shocked.
Yeah?
Yeah, from the beginning, my earliest memories, I wanted to be a mom. And I kind of always knew I was going to have 8 kids. I know that sounds funny. I had in mind the Waltons. I was going to raise
this perfect.
Yeah, and I just knew I was a pretty obedient child. I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't rebellious. And so I figured if I loved my children and taught them, they would want to do the things I asked them to do. So yeah, when that happens, you know, it's every parent's worst nightmare. And you feel shocked, and you feel, I felt very afraid, and I felt guilty. But the fear was the worst, because you worry about what people are thinking. What did I do wrong? Where did I fail?
Well, you mentioned that. Do you blame yourself then as you're going through that and you're seeing the struggles that your kids are having? Did you blame yourself at that time?
I did. I thought, oh, well, this happened over a long period of time. You know, some of them were in crisis. Sometimes we had 3 people in crisis. Sometimes we had just one. Sometimes things were sailing along smoothly. But you feel, I kept thinking, where did I fail? Where did I make what wasn't I paying attention to? What could I have done differently?
Well, Julie, jump in here. I mean, the goal to nurture, and I can tell just from meeting you in the short time that I have, loving, caring, invested mother, where does that nurture go wrong?
Well, I think it's, my heart goes out. I'm a mom too. I know what that's like. And I think the mistake as parents is to overemphasize the nurture. There are more factors that impact our kids' development that we can't control than that we can. We focus on the nurture, but there's all of the chemical, biological aspect.
Nurture versus nature, what they actually have inside and what we do to them, right?
And the experiences they have outside of the home. So it's easy to think, you know, what did I do wrong? But there are really so many factors that go into a person's development that we don't have control over. And it's important as parents and as neighbors and friends looking on in families who are struggling to recognize that. It doesn't mean, you know, Mom, you've done something wrong.
So as a parent, we shouldn't feel like other people are judging us, whatever, that we've done it bad, because there are other mitigating circumstances. What did you worry about what other people were thinking? Did you?
Yes.
Was that part of the conversation too?
I did, because you know, you feel really vulnerable. Motherhood is the place where you feel most vulnerable, I think, and you kind of judge yourself by what your children are doing. These children, my children, are beautiful, bright, intelligent people, and they always were. And some of them just got sidetracked in some other areas and made difficult choices. I think, and sometimes people would say things to me. You know, I used to say, my child will never do that. And then when it happens, you think, how can this be happening? How can this be happening to me? The fear is the worst, because I think it shuts us down. And for me, I couldn't think straight. I think I went through a period of being really depressed for a while. And I finally had to, I guess it becomes so painful, you have to decide what can be done, because you keep thinking, I have to do something. I can't allow this. But the truth is, we don't have a lot of power over another individual. I mean, I've said this a lot. you know, we ought to learn how much control we have when we try to potty train a 2-year-old.
Yeah, there you go.
Not much.
I want to touch on the judgment factor a little bit, because the purpose of this discussion being to improve our support and our perspective from the outside. So Julie, when it comes to judgment, you ask any neighbor, friend, family member, they're going to say, well, no way do I want to judge someone. But Margaret's saying, I felt it. And do we do it? We do.
We judge, and we tend to pin it on the mom, which is really unfair. And because what women and mothers need when their child is struggling is love and acceptance and support, and people to nurture and buoy them up, not judgment. And I think the judgment comes from our own fear of, oh my goodness, I hope my kid doesn't do that.
You think judgment is rooted in fear?
Yes, yes. And it's not rooted in love. It usually is, like, if our neighbor's family life is mirroring our worst nightmare, we judge that. We go, oh, well, it wouldn't, you know, we're better, or that would never happen to us. But when we can see, you know, it may happen to us, and what do I hope someone would do when I'm in that situation for me?
Well, I want to ask Margaret that exact thing. What did you find helpful? If I'm your neighbor and I see you struggling with this, and the kid's out of control and having issues, what would you want me to do?
Well, I can tell you, I had several neighbors. I talked about it after a while because I needed, I guess, validation, and I needed to vent, and I was hurting. And so we've been pretty open. I had some neighbors that, when one child came home from detention, they had made a welcome home sign. I had another neighbor call and say, I know your son's struggling a little bit, and I know he likes to run, and I run every morning. Do you think maybe once or twice he'd come with me? And
so that reach out was helpful.
Yes,
yeah.
and so I had a lot of people that were wonderful, and probably a lot of the judgment was that I felt was my own fear. When I came to the place where I could accept that my children had a right to a choice that was different than mine, that was a real breakthrough for me. And acceptance is not the same as agreement. I had to hold firm to my standards. I had to stay true there and continue to invite. But my sweet father-in-law said to me once, honey, you just keep the door open, you keep your heart open. And I realized as soon as I did that and began to see things a little differently for them and respect their difference, the love came back. The fear, it replaced that fear.
I love what you said. Acceptance doesn't have to mean agreement. I think that's the message right there for us all as we do this sensitivity training.
And knowing motherhood can be such a vulnerable position. Thank you both for sharing your perspectives. We'll be right back with more on Studio 5.